a couple of beers from the woman standing behind it. She looked human enough, but her odor, vaguely fishy, reminded Michael of the sea.
"What do you think she is?"
asked Leica, low enough so that only Michael heard the question. It took Michael a second to place the salty aroma exhaled by the bartender. He had only met her kind once before, and it had been a long time ago. Almost another life. The year was 1016, and the Berserkers' Corps had been recently outlawed by the ruling king of Norway, Jarl Erik Håkonarson. Michael, who had joined the ranks of the Berserkers immediately after the death of his wife and son 37 years earlier, was still reeling from the tragedy that had cost him his family. Joining the Berserkers had provided an outlet for his rage, a way to channel anger into organized destruction in the name of his country. But now, with no purpose in life and no way to safely vent his excess of adrenaline, he simply couldn't trust himself not to cause more pain and suffering among the general population. It was his desire to keep humans safe from his beast, which had pushed him to embark on a Greenland-bound expedition. The Vikings Knarren had been sailing for almost 2 weeks under favorable winds when a storm hit them without warning. They had lost the Knarr and its entire crew to the elements, but Michael's vessel had been spared long enough to reach the island. The storm had thrown the expedition off course, and the sailors weren't too sure of their position. The island was too small to be Iceland, but it was too big to be a simple reef. Whatever this place was, it was strangely inviting, particularly after the storm, which had exhausted the men and tested their spirits. The boats had still been a quarter-mile from the shore when the women had emerged from the luscious vegetation and walked to the beach to beckon the sailors with welcoming gestures. Abandoning the main vessels, the men had hastily boarded the smaller rowboats and started furiously rowing towards the temptresses. But they'd never reached the beach. The boats had still been 100 yards from the shore when the women had thrown themselves into the water, and swimming underneath its surface at a speed no human could have matched, swooped up on the rowboats. The creatures that had capsized the rowboats still vaguely resembled the lovely creatures they'd seen on the beach, but only from the waist up. The bottom half of their bodies were now covered in scales and terminated by large and powerful fishtails. The creatures' needle-sharp teeth had torn through the men's flesh as if they'd been made of paper, the surrounding water quickly adopting a sinister crimson color. Michael's boat, however, had counted no less than 4 werebears among its passengers. Water wasn't a werebear's favorite element to fight in, but despite their slowed-down movements, they remained immensely powerful, and they easily pushed back against their attackers, who quickly understood they were better off feasting on the few easier preys who could still be found splashing around in an attempt to reach the safety of the main vessels. "She's a siren," answered Michael. The bartender placed 2 beers on the counter and graced them with a smile, showcasing hundreds of razor-sharp teeth.
"Is there anything else I can do for you? Anything at all?"
she asked with a pointed look at Leica. Elves visiting the establishment were undoubtedly few and far in between, and Leica seemed to strike a chord with the bartender. "We're here to see Gwendolyn. Is she here tonight?" asked Michael. The siren sighed and pointed towards a table in a corner of the room where a silhouette sat alone. The face was invisible in the dim lighting of the room, but as they got closer, Michael started making out the features of a woman. From up close, she looked to be in her 40s, with short, silvery-tipped black hair and an aquiline nose. But what immediately attracted the eye was the deep cut, which started on her forehead and went down all the way to the middle of her left cheek. The injury, probably caused by a knife, had robbed her of both her beauty